Hi, and welcome to episode 204 of Amanda's Picture Show A Go-Go. In this episode, I have my mom, Brenda, and Sean Wheeler back on the podcast, and we are kicking off award season. We are talking about the nominations for the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice Awards, the SAG Awards, and also the shortlists for the Oscar nominations, which are coming out tomorrow. So, a few notes. Even though the Golden Globes did happen this past Sunday night, I left our discussion about the nominees in because many of them are also nominated for the SAGs and the Critics' Choice Awards, and we went more in depth about them during our Golden Globes discussion. So, just wanted to keep that in there because it's all tied in with award season. The correct pronunciation of the director of The Farewell is Lulu Wang. I said Wang several times in this episode. I have since learned the correct pronunciation is Wong. So going forward, after this episode, I will make those corrections. Recent reports say that Scorsese has only seen clips of the Joker, not the entire film. So not sure if he really thinks it's fine or if he was just blowing off reporters. I guess only time will tell. Both 1917 and the film Just Mercy opened in Columbus this weekend. New Year's Eve was the night that Pope Francis slapped a woman on the hand. He is 83 years old. Nigeria is the country whose film was disqualified from the Oscars Best International Film category because there was too much English spoken in it. The movie is called Lionheart, and it is currently on Netflix if you'd like to watch it. And then John Williams is currently 87 years old. He will be turning 88 one day before the Oscars. There are some spoilers in this episode. They are about the movie Wolf of Wall Street, and then there's some spoilers about the book Little Women. Therefore, that means the movie adaptations of Little Women are also spoiled because it's a plot point of a, 150-year-old book. I want to thank all of you for listening in. You'll hear me talk about it later on. 2019 was a hell of a year, so this is a fresh start to 2020. We're getting back in the swing of things. I'm getting back in the swing of things. And so we're going to have a lot of award season things going on through the Oscars, and then coming back with more episodes as the year goes on. Well, thank you again for downloading this episode, and without further ado, here is our kicking off award season special. Hi, and welcome to Amanda's Picture Show A Go-Go. I am your host, Amanda, and today I have two wonderful guests with me. Sean Wheeler is here.
Hey!
From Cinema Wheelerte.
Yes, indeed. For better or worse.
And Brenda, a.k.a. my mom.
From your childhood.
From birth.
Yes, hi. It is I.
And we're back for the first time in a long time. 2019 sucked, but it's 2020 now. It's a new year, and it's a new award season. So for the third year in a row, we're going to be kicking off award season with some nominations. Not yet the Oscar nominations. Those won't be out for another week or so. But we've got the Golden Globe nominations, the Screen Actors Guild Award nominations, and the Critics' Choice Award nominations. And then if we've got time, we're going to look at some of the shortlists for the Oscars, see if we can figure out what we think they might end up doing with those.
Great.
So let's start with the Golden Globe nominations. And I know there's television, and I know my mom loves television, but next week when we do a Golden Globe special after we've watched the Globes, we can hit on that with you, Mom. Fair?
So we're not going to talk about them now.
Not about TV now. Only film.
I'm out. I'll see you later.
Mother?
Sorry. Okay.
So, for Best Screenplay at the Golden Globes, and one of the things that's interesting is most voting bodies split up screenplay between adapted and original, but the Golden Globes just do screenplay.
Right.
At Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So their screenplay nominations are Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Anthony McCartan for The Two Popes, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Steven Zaillian for The Irishman. And one of the big things is it is all dudes.
Interesting.
I've seen 3 of these 5 movies. I've seen The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite.
Mm-hmm. I've seen The Irishman. I think that might be the only one I personally have seen up to this point. I am correcting that.
I know. As we go on through award season, as Sean comes back on and Mom comes back on, we'll all be catching up more.
Yes. That's tough. I am shocked. Not that I've seen the film, but I am shocked that Little Women was not included, because I've heard a lot of people rave about the way she had Greta Gerwig adapted that screenplay. So I'm kind of surprised that she wasn't given a nomination for that.
Yeah, and I think that's where, like I said, with the Globes, it's kind of weird because they do just screenplay. They don't split it up between adapted and original. Because I think in this group...
Are these all original?
All but The Irishman. Like, The Irishman is an adaptation, but the rest I'm pretty sure original. I don't know for sure about The Two Popes.
Yeah.
Because I haven't watched that yet. And I listened to an interview with one of the actors the other day, and he mentioned the writer, but I can't remember if he said it was an adapted screenplay or not.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I had read that the Two Popes was based on some sort of source material of some sort outside of the screenplay.
It's based on a play also written by Anthony McCartan.
Gotcha.
That's what it is. But
so he wrote the screenplay from his play.
Yes.
So it's adapted, but by
Kind
the
of.
same guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think I heard, I can't remember which voting body it is, but like one voting body is going, well, we'll just call it original. And other ones are like, well, no, it's adapted because it was a play. But then other people are like, well, it's still original because it's his own thing. It's very, like, blurry.
I guess technically it is an adaptation because it's drawn from another source that isn't a movie. Maybe that's how they look at it.
But still, like, I know Marriage Story and Parasite and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are all
definitely
original stories. Yeah, I think Greta Gerwig not getting nominated there, it really sucks. Like, I haven't seen Little Women yet. That's my next movie that I want to go see because I love that story. As my mom knows, I was obsessed with Louisa May Alcott as a child.
Yes, you were.
And I've watched, like, every other adaptation of Little Women a million times.
We were about to watch the Katharine Hepburn version from 33 on, I think it was TCM, like around Christmas. But my brother, as our family was about to watch it, goes, "This is not a movie you can just jump into midway through. You have to watch it from start to finish."
Fair.
Like, that's true.
Yeah.
I know some of the others that I've heard, like, people were, like, kind of upset that didn't get nominated there, especially since it's all men in screenplay. The Farewell, which was written and directed by Lulu Wang.
Right,
Oh.
right.
Okay, I know what that is.
Yeah, The Farewell with Awkwafina,
Yeah.
who is nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Comedy for that.
You know what else I'm surprised, especially for that specific category, was not mentioned would be Knives Out and Rian Johnson.
Right?
Which is a terrific film, and the screenplay is almost the star of that film. It's such a well-written piece.
Yeah, the screenplay, I don't know, at the Golden Globes, it just felt kind of... I mean, I'm not saying any of these are bad. Like, I think the Parasite script is fantastic, but because it's only the 5, you don't get the 10 because of the split, it does feel like things are missing, for sure.
Right.
Then another category in which it is all men, and not male actor, at the Golden Globes was the Best Director category has nominated Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Sam Mendes for 1917, Todd Phillips for Joker, Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, and Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Well, 2 of them are like these legendary filmmakers that are going to continue to be nominated because of who they are. You know them by their last name, Tarantino and Scorsese.
Exactly.
Todd Phillips, I guess you have to kind of, I mean, It was one of the biggest water cooler films and the most divisive films of the year.
Yes.
People had an opinion on it one way or the other.
Did you ever see Joker, Mom?
Nope. No, it's been a rough year.
I know.
Yeah, that's not a movie you want to see, by the way, if you're having a rough time.
Yeah, it was a rough year.
Especially if you're a straight white male.
Oh my god.
I remember when I went to see it, and she was like, "Be careful. It could be dangerous." And I'm like, "It's gonna be fine, Mom." And it was fine.
Well, I said if anybody's going to be triggered and show up like they did in
Dark Knight Rises.
Denver,
Yeah.
This is a movie that might trigger that kind of behavior. So I'm like, just watch for the exits.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are nervous about, because it's like that character previously
Exactly.
probably influenced the kid who was in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In this, but although this movie is commenting on that behavior and what triggers those kind of
Yeah.
mentalities.
Right.
Like, I know Joker has been very divisive, and I overall liked the film, and I thought it was incredibly well crafted. However, I don't know how I feel about Todd Phillips getting a director nomination, because I feel like he's just imitating Scorsese.
Yes.
Like, entirely. And this is not his first film that he's done that in.
And I say to solve that problem, just say Martin Scorsese for The Irishman and Joker.
Oh wow.
Oh, it's seriously, Mom, like, some of the stuff he does, I'm just like, oh, he just stole all of this from Scorsese.
Right.
Like, it's very Taxi Driver in a superhero way.
Yeah, I heard.
And his previous film that he did, like, 3 years ago, it was one of the first ones I covered on the podcast, was War Dogs with Jonah Hill and
Oh, right.
Miles Teller.
Yes.
And I saw...
They sold the...
Yeah, they sold guns, and I saw that, and in the my podcast episode for that I did with Ariel, I was like, he's just trying to be Martin Scorsese and do a Wolf of Wall Street, and like and he even hired Jonah Hill. Like, it felt so much like he was trying to make a Martin Scorsese movie, and so then when he did Joker, I was like, well, yeah, because that's all Todd Phillips is doing now. Like, I feel like he did the Hangover movies, and then he was like, from now on, I will just imitate Scorsese forever.
And he cast Robert De Niro in Joker.
Right.
Wow.
But it was funny. I just read an article where they asked Scorsese what he thought of Joker, and he goes, "Oh, it's fine." Because he's still in that anti-superhero phase anyway. But when they're asking about a movie that deliberately draws from his own filmography, he goes, "Oh, it's fine," and he walked away like he wasn't really that interested in, like, not in a rude, but just moving on to another
I'm
topic.
not engaging in this conversation.
Yeah, he wasn't.
I mean, Scorsese has been his own, I don't know, meme-worthy person this year, or, for 2019 and his comments, but you can't deny that he's a good director. Like,
No.
And I just watched The Irishman the other night, and my sister Faith watched, like, half of it, and there were some things that he did with the camera that she was like, oh my gosh, that transition is amazing. And I was like, oh, Faith, we need to watch more Scorsese.
Yes.
Because she's never seen, like, Goodfellas or a bunch of the other stuff, so we're gonna have a film lesson. But I'm like, this is why he's one of the best filmmakers around. Like, whether you like his comments about superhero films or the role of women in cinema for himself, in which he said he's getting older, so he just doesn't have time to write for women anymore. I'm like, oh, sir, no.
I think what's really interesting, since we started covering these award seasons, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and it probably has always happened, but it's really started happening around the time we started covering this regularly, is that there's an overriding story or theme about Hollywood that's taking place as we go into the award season.
Yeah.
I think in 2017, the first race it was about inclusion. That a lot of people weren't being nominated. It was basically just a bunch of white people across the board.
Oscars so white.
Yeah, Oscars so white. I think the following year, it was Me Too.
Yeah.
Me Too became the big, because it was right after Weinstein had the case had opened up, and
2017
Cosby,
into 2018.
and that was, and Spacey and all those guys were being incriminated or kind of shunned, and then that kind of filtered in. Now, the big debate going into this year has been this: what is cinema? What is a movie? And the divide between what's considered commercial versus what's considered art has become a real strong divide. So there's always this kind of push and pull from all these different strands each year going into the race, I think.
Yeah. I think that's great to see, because that is something I noticed particularly. I mean, we're a couple weeks away from the Oscar nominations, but I always find by the time we're doing like the Oscar predictions episode in, another 6 weeks, that once I've watched like pretty much all of the nominees, I start to see particular themes throughout the nominees. Like, especially when you get into watching the shorts and things like that, it's really fascinating to kind of see like, oh, okay, these are all dealing with this sort of thing right now, or this is what's going on. And last year, I felt like the big debate was what is new Hollywood and what's old Hollywood.
Yes.
When we had, Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book, and then we all,
yes,
things like Eighth Grade, and, so it was like very, new Hollywood, old Hollywood, but,
yeah. Well, but this would be an offshoot of that, I think.
I think so,
is, yeah.
I mean, it's just the next step of
that conversation.
Old Hollywood, new Hollywood. Now it's like, but what is a movie? Is a movie something that tells a story in 4 pieces in 2 or 3 hour sections? If it's really filmed to be one story, it's like, where does what happens here?
Right. And also, should it be screened in the theater to be considered a film, or should it be
can
exclusive
it just be
to a
on
streaming
streaming?
service?
Yeah, which is a whole other thing. I mean, so we're talking about Best Director here, and Martin Scorsese's The Irishman is on Netflix, and Sean was lucky enough to see it in the theater, which I was supposed to go with him, but I got very sick and could not go.
And if you ever have the opportunity, I highly recommend seeing it in a theater, because like all Scorsese films, they look great on the big screen. I really enjoyed The Irishman myself, and as somebody who I've disagreed with Scorsese on the debate about what is cinema, but that doesn't mean I disregard him as a person. That's ridiculous. I still think he's a great artist, and I actually enjoy him in interviews. He seems like he has a great sense of humor. And for me, The Irishman felt like a return to the kind of Scorsese I grew up with, from the 70s and 80s, and Goodfellas. It was almost kind of a return to that era. And because I have such affection for De Niro and Pacino and those guys and what they've contributed over the years, to see them get like what might be maybe their one last big hurrah, like their final statement as actors, maybe on a big platform, was great to see. And probably justify the length of 3.5 hours to see them kind of explore that terrain once more.
Yeah. I do want to say, I know neither of you have seen Parasite yet, but Bong Joon-ho's directing in it is fantastic. The only one that hasn't opened here in Columbus yet is 1917.
Yeah.
So Sam Mendes film. But once again, this is all men in this category. And speaking of Little Women, a lot of people are going, where's Greta Gerwig? I've heard a lot of people ask about Lulu Wang. Because there have been great films made by women this year. Like, it just seems a little off that nobody's included. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was Mariel Heller.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, certainly Greta Gerwig, based on the reviews I've seen for Little Women, it's like 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is one of the highest scores, I think, out there right now with the Oscar race. And the fact, I am actually legitimately kind of surprised, because there was so much affection for Lady Bird 2 years ago.
Right.
And that this was so well received that the Globes kind of dismissed this completely.
Yeah, I was listening to, I think it was Little Gold Men, and they were talking about, is it that Little Women is such an American story? And with the Golden Globes, it's the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, so is it just not resonating with them? Because, it takes place during the American Civil War, and, so I don't know if it's that, or
I don't know
what's going on.
Yeah, it's very strange. I have a feeling that Little Women will be better represented at the Oscars than the Golden Globes. I really do think that's going to get back into contention at that stage, because I think she's really well respected and kind of loved in Hollywood right now, and I think people legitimately like her work. And I can see that seeping back into the race at that point in time. I could be wrong, but that's just a hunch I
Yeah,
have.
no, I hope so. I've heard a lot of people, whether it's like with Vanity Fair, Entertainment Weekly, or Vulture, or wherever, like saying, "Yeah, I'm really hoping like Little Women peaks back up with the Oscar noms in a couple weeks."
I am glad to see Sam Mendes, though, in a vacuum get nominated, because I think he's one of our more underappreciated directors, because I think he's extremely talented, and he's directed a lot of great movies over the years that I've loved.
And he has a lot of range.
Yes. And a great visual style, too. Very distinct. And just as an example, I love his Bond work on the Bond movies was fantastic, and Road to Perdition is one of my favorite movies of the last 20 years, so...
Yeah, the fact that he has done, like, arguably the best Bond film ever, like Skyfall, and now he's making a World War I epic, like, it's just kind of fascinating.
A fantastic career, actually.
Okay, so moving on to the acting awards for the Golden Globes, the nominations. So, for Best Supporting Actress, the nominees are Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell, Annette Bening for The Report, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers, and Margot Robbie for Bombshell.
I think J-Lo might be the one that doesn't make the Oscar race, so just a hunch from what I've heard. I have not heard a lot of buzz about that performance.
I have too. Hustlers was one I just like missed when it came out.
Yeah.
I had some personal life stuff going on and just didn't get a chance to see it. I feel bad I've not seen any of these performances yet, but I'm hoping... I've heard Laura Dern is amazing in Marriage Story, so I'm hoping to catch that before we record our Golden Globes special next week.
Yes, I've heard the same thing, and as we all know from the podcasts past, that I'm a big Margot Robbie fan, so I'm happy to see that, even if I haven't seen Bombshell yet.
Yeah.
It's good to see her back in the running.
Still was my favorite performance for I, Tonya that year. She was so good.
That was my favorite, too. She was fantastic.
Have you seen any of these movies, Mom?
Nope, not a single one.
No, I know Sean and I haven't yet. We're sorry, listeners. Again, as award season progresses, we will be watching more of these films.
Exactly. And just trust that we know what we're talking about when we don't know what we're talking about.
Well, so then moving on to Best Supporting Actor, the nominees are Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins for The Two Popes, Al Pacino for The Irishman, Joe Pesci for The Irishman, and Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Well, I have seen 3 of the 5 in this category, which is great. I love Tom Hanks. It's hard for me to go against the grain whenever he's nominated for anything, and I think he did a terrific job as Mr. Rogers. I do think that was a really worthwhile performance, something certainly worthy of a nomination, because it's not just him doing an impression. He seems to embody Mr. Rogers the way you need to for that script to work and that movie to work. Cool. Yeah, I think he does a really good job of channeling him the right way.
I'll admit I've not yet watched the movie because I've been waiting to watch it with Jessica and Colleen so that we can all cry together. Because when just the preview came out, the 3 of us were like messaging each other and just like, I'm crying. Are you crying? No, it's all of us crying. Like, we were just teary-eyed. But I was honestly surprised to see that he is in the supporting actor spot.
I think it's appropriate because even though the movie's not really a character study of Mr. Rogers, it's how Mr. Rogers helps this jaded performer reconcile his relationship with his father, who's dying, and kind of left him in a very messy divorce situation. Chris Cooper, of course, plays it because any dysfunctional family needs Chris Cooper as their dad.
Oh my God, it's so true.
And that was fun to watch. But Tom Hanks, it's not just like I know that Brenda. We've talked about people playing celebrities or famous people or factual people in movies. How it can be kind of like a stunt. Yeah. That people kind of...
There's a grade card. You get an A, you win an Oscar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where I think Tom Hanks here is not just playing Mr. Rogers, but I feel like it's not just a cheap stunt to reenact his mannerisms.
Mimicking.
He actually seems to kind of like slow down and embody the essence of what who Fred Rogers is, and how he interacts with people. So I think that's a deserving nomination, at least.
Well, I know if he gets nominated for an Oscar, it'll be like the first time he's been nominated in 20 years.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Because I think the last time he was nominated was Castaway.
That was 20 years ago?
Right?
Holy shit.
Let's all collectively feel very old.
Man.
Oy.
Well, that's a shame. That's a shame that it took that long.
I think it's a tragedy that he was not nominated for Captain Phillips. While I had issues with that film because Paul Greengrass moves the camera around so much I vomit, Tom Hanks gave a brilliant performance.
He did, and I thought he was great in The Road to Perdition, to be honest with you. I thought that was worthy of a nomination.
And he's
for sure.
excellent in Bridge of Spies.
Yes.
There have been so many movies that he has been great in.
But I think it's because people think, he gets nominated all the time because he has those 2 Oscars, so they forget that he hasn't been nominated.
Has not been.
Yeah, but that was 25 years ago that he was winning all the Oscars.
We take him for granted because he's so good.
Yeah, more than now.
He's one of those guys, he's so good and so beloved, we take him for granted.
I think that's very much it. I think he's totally taken for granted because he does stuff when he acts that...
It just feels like he's being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it feels like he's...
So is that Amy Adams' issue? It just feels like she's being, therefore she doesn't win?
I think that you might be onto it. Yeah.
She just is.
Like, they
so
just
good.
embody the characters so much, it doesn't feel like a performance, it just feels like
she's just being a thing, a person, a whatever. Whatever the performance isn't a performance. It's just being.
They make it seem effortless,
yes,
and we take it for granted.
we take them for granted. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a great observation.
I mean, hashtag justice for Amy Adams will forever be a part of this podcast.
How she's not won anything at this point is a crime.
I'm
almost.
still
It really is.
upset she didn't get a nomination for Arrival. I will never stop bitching about that. As far as... she was fantastic. I know Stephen Woosley would stick up for me on that.
I love Amy Adams.
I do too.
So, as far as like the other nominees here in supporting actor, I know none of us have seen The Two Popes yet, but it only just got to Netflix 10 days ago or something. It
right before Christmas?
Yeah, just a couple days before Christmas.
I just want to say, remembering Pope Benedict, before I even see this movie, and seeing Anthony Hopkins cast as Pope Benedict, who always came off as the evil Pope to me, like Palpatine. I think that's a perfect casting. That's the perfect casting. Like, holy shit, that's almost a funny, like a satire.
Yeah. Well, and the other Pope is Jonathan Pryce.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to see him because his was the interview that I heard the other day, and he was talking about how as soon as Francis is the Pope now, right? Can you tell none of us are Catholic?
I was exposed and raised, but that's probably why I have a...
But when, I guess Francis became Pope, Jonathan Pryce said his own son, sent him a text and was like, hey, Dad, this guy looks at you, or it looks just like you. Did you secretly become Pope and I didn't know about it? Or something like that, which I just thought was funny. But he's not...
Yeah, but Francis slapped a lady on Christmas Eve. Did you see that?
Oh.
Or New Year's Eve.
Oh.
Maybe it was New Year's Eve.
Oh, no.
I didn't know that.
Did she try to touch him?
He was touching everyone in the crowd and giving blessings and reaching over people's heads and touching people in the second and third row back as he was walking along. Being very, gregariously Pope-like in that toned-down Pope-ish way. And then he turned to go. He's being sort of moved away from the crowd. And a woman leaned forward and grabbed his hand and yanked him back to her. And it yanked him. He did a movement.
He's a young man.
And I feel like he could have fallen. I mean, the jerk was enough that I thought, wow, somebody in there, he's probably nearly 80 now. If not.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that would have taken my mom out, clearly, that.
Yeah.
So, or my father. So I was like, wow, she really... And then he slapped her hand like, what did you do? And he, did it a couple times and got her to let go of him. And he made a very scowly old man face and he walked away.
Ooh.
And then he addressed it, though, in his address. I think it was maybe New Year's Eve. And he addressed it on New Year's Day and said, everyone loses patience, even me. And we need to be better about that.
That's kind of cool that he took accountability for it.
Just
immediately.
Because my thought would be like, a stranger was grabbing me.
I know.
We discussed that, but
she really did. She went.
He's the Pope,
crossed boundaries.
It's refreshing to see a Catholic priest take accountability for something. That's always good. I think that's a great idea for a story, actually, because it's so rare. I think to see two popes
So first time
transitioning
in, like,
empowered.
700 years.
Yes, I mean that's
Without one dying.
yes,
Yeah.
and both of them being so different in terms of public perception
Oh,
too.
sure.
On top of that, it would make I'm really looking forward to seeing it, and even if it's not maybe Oscar worthy, I still think it's worthy of checking out. You know?
Yeah, especially after listening to the interview, I'm very intrigued to watch it. The other three nominees here, we have the two from The Irishman, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci, and then Brad Pitt from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. For me personally, Brad Pitt is my favorite supporting.
I heard he's very entertaining in that movie.
He is. I think he gives a great performance. Out of the Al Pacino and Joe Pesci,
They'll cancel each other out?
I see. To me, I feel like Al Pacino's really being Al Pacino, and whereas Joe Pesci, I feel like his is a slightly more subdued performance. I liked Joe Pesci better.
I definitely agree objectively, although I am a sucker for anytime Pacino goes histrionic, I am a sucker. It's just
And
like
he's
Nicholson.
Jimmy Hoffa, and he's like,
Oh, it's the opposite. What I was saying about Tom Hanks earlier with Mr. Rogers. What Pacino does is like, I'm not going to play Jimmy Hoffa. I'm going to make him Al Pacino. Hey, ooh-ah, come on, kids.
right? Basically,
You're not going to get your pension. Ooh-ah. Yeah.
It totally feels like that.
Yeah, and I love it though. I was extremely entertained by it.
Mom, this isn't a spoiler, but like, there's a scene where he's just being like, "You motherfuckers," and he's just like yelling it over and over again, and you can almost hear the echo of like, "Oh, motherfuckers" in the background or something. Like that's he's totally over the top. I mean, it's a good over the top performance, but I'm on record on this podcast repeatedly saying I like more subdued performances in general.
Yeah.
I just feel like it takes a lot more control.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel like in the case between the two, supporting guys in The Irishman, I think Joe Pesci is more in control. And that's also part of his character, is like to be able to like have that sort of control over his emotions.
Yes, and it also goes against what we expect from Joe Pesci in a Scorsese film.
Yes.
It's almost a 180, and I think you have to respect that he went in a completely different direction. Where Al Pacino is just doing Al Pacino's greatest hits, and I love it, but it's still enjoyable for me. I have not seen Brad Pitt. I've heard a lot of great things about him in the movie.
I would be very interested, since you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to find some nominee things to do, I might tap you for that since you haven't watched it.
Yes, and I'm going to get a special cut where I block out one particular individual from each scene. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll talk
We'll
about
get
that here in a minute. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Okay, so...
Right.
As we've discussed in years past, but for new listeners, the Golden Globes are split into comedy and drama, minus the four categories we just talked
Yes.
about. But
Is that the one where that hilarious movie The Martian was nominated
Yeah.
in comedy?
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
Gotcha.
Hilarious movie,
So-
The Martian.
Hilarious.
It's like the airplane of the 2010s.
Yeah, I just laughed and laughed.
I mean that's called a movie that has jokes in it, but it's a drama that has jokes, not a comedy. Golden Globes. So for for actress in a comedy, the nominees are Ana de Armas for Knives Out, Awkwafina for The Farewell, Kate Blanchett for Where Do You Go, Bernadette, Beanie Feldstein for Booksmart, and Emma Thompson for Late Night.
Damas is nominated for Knives Out.
Yes,
I
which
love her. I love her.
I think that's so deserved.
Yes.
She carries that movie.
She is so... I told... My brother and I were having this conversation the other day because Scott started looking her up. We both looked her up after Knives Out, especially me, because I adored the movie.
Yeah.
And then I had completely forgotten that she was in Blade Runner 2049 as the kind of the hologram girl. Mm-hmm. For lack of a better term. And what I've noticed with her is she has a unique talent for making an audience feel so much sympathy for her, because she has this very sympathetic face.
Yes.
It was utilized well in Blade Runner. It was utilized brilliantly in this movie, too.
Well,
so.
as I mentioned earlier, Todd Phillips' previous movie War Dogs, where he's imitating Scorsese, Ana de Armas, that was the first movie I saw her in, and I thought she was underutilized in that movie. I was like, that's a great actress there. Mm-hmm. And what she does with the very few scenes she has is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I was so excited to see her have such a major role in Knives Out.
And I am genuinely excited to see her as the next Bond girl. because her chemistry with Daniel Craig in Knives Out is off the charts, and I said that's what got her that role. They probably saw the footage of that movie and said, get her in here.
Yeah.
That's great.
Or he was like, so I worked with this person and she's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a really interesting lineup, and I like that these are, in general, comedic performances. I mean, Awkwafina in The Farewell, I will say, like, even though The Farewell, the premise is dealing with, like, the death of a grandmother, so I thought I was going to be weeping, it was a lot funnier than I was expecting. Mm-hmm. Even though her performance, I don't know that I would say is fully comedic, but if you're gonna try to split it between, I think, drama and comedy, I'm happy to see Awkwafina recognized, at least with a nomination here.
The only exposure I've had to Awkwafina this year, as opposed to like Crazy Rich Asians a few years ago, is I happened to be watching that Netflix Dark Crystal series where she's playing one of the what are they called, the bird, the Skeksis. But this was a Skeksis who had a deformity that had snot running down its nose.
Oh, okay.
But her voice was, I don't think it was either a male or female. I think it was kind of the gender was not identified. Oh. And Mark Hamill was another of the Skeeves, but she's going, and I didn't know who it was. Like, this voice sounds familiar to me, and I can't peg who it is, and it was Awkwafina.
Oh, interesting.
So it's kind of cool that she's going into voiceover work too. Now I have no reference for The Farewell and how good she is. I've heard a lot of great things, but
I think you would like the movie.
Yeah,
Sean.
I think so.
So would you, Mom? You would like The Farewell.
I like that Beanie Feldstein was nominated only because I think it's cool that her brother's been nominated. Yeah. Now she has too.
Yeah,
it's like, go get them, kids.
She's great in Booksmart. Also, I was very happy to see her nominated, and to see Booksmart get a nomination there, because Booksmart's one of my favorite movies of the year. I loved it.
Yours and Barack Obama's.
Well, wouldn't you know, we're two peas in a pod. Mm-hmm. Me and Barack, buddies.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Yes. And then Emma Thompson in Late Night, which I just watched Late Night a few days ago, and I think she's good in it.
Is it Oscar worthy?
No.
Or, I guess, Golden Globe worthy? Sorry. Golden Globe worthy.
So what is
why not?
Yeah, what is these days, right?
Yeah, I'm like, Golden Globes, yeah, why not?
Really?
I don't think it's Oscar worthy, but she's fun.
I'd say she's Oscar worthy, but not Golden Globes worthy, guys. Let's not go crazy.
Okay, then for Best Actor in a Comedy for the Golden Globes, the nominations are Daniel Craig for Knives Out, Roman Griffin Davis for Jojo Rabbit, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Taron Egerton for Rocketman, and Eddie Murphy for Dolomite Is My Name.
Well, I absolutely adore Daniel Craig's performance in Knives Out, and
it's so much fun.
It's in my wheelhouse all the way. It's like a Coen Brothers character that was transferred into another movie, and it's wonderful to watch.
Yeah,
and I just love it. So I would definitely be biased in that category with him. I don't think I've seen any other performances.
I've seen all of these except Dolomite Is My Name.
And the only one I've seen is Dolomite Is My Name.
How's Eddie Murphy in it?
Oh my gosh, he's wonderful. He really is. He's absolutely wonderful.
I've heard really great things.
Yeah. He's wonderful. I mean, the story is what it is, and he embodies that character just very seamlessly.
There's also a lot of goodwill with Eddie these days. People, it's like not kind of a renaissance almost, because
it's an Edisance. Right?
Yeah, it's an Edisance. Yeah, because he hosted SNL.
Yes, and he did a great job.
Did a great job, and then he has the Coming to America sequel coming out soon.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and like he said, he's got 9 or 10 children. He has to pay for all of these children. He's got to get some work.
He's riding the wave right now.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, I've seen all of these other ones. I think Taron Egerton, I'm glad to see him nominated. I thought he was really good in Rocketman.
Yeah, I think he even captured the humor of Elton John in the rehab scenes, because Elton John's extremely funny guy in real life. I'm glad they captured that in that movie. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a big Elton fan, by the way, and I love his stuff.
Yeah. Did you like Rocketman?
You know, it was the thing I recognized with. I'll say this much, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I am such a fan of Elton and his music that I knew that the movie was a love letter to him, but I kept wanting to hear the actual versions, the Elton versions, the original versions of the songs, because when I saw him sing as Elton, I kind of missed the actual Elton. I would go back and revisit those songs, but it made me appreciate that version so much more because I saw it. But it was obviously meant as a homage to his work
Sure.
and what he did.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no issue there. It's just something I noticed. Like it's
Right.
the music means so much to me. I guess like a lot of artists that I love, that it was hard for me to listen to somebody else do kind of a carbon. That wasn't even a carbon copy, but to play around with those,
Right.
arrangements and everything.
I liked how it reminded me of like very Julie Taymor-esque.
Yes, it was a lot like Julie Taymor. I had
Yeah.
that same reaction. I kind of felt like the approach to Bohemian Rhapsody should have been used. The approach to Rocketman should have been used for Bohemian Rhapsody and vice versa. I felt that would have been more satisfying for me because I feel like Elton is a more understated artist in a way than Queen, and Queen could use more bombast and an over the top approach, kind of like Tommy by the Who. I felt
Right.
that's something that movie needed. That was just my observation in
Although-
general with that.
Elton is over the top, and
He can be, yeah.
It was in that movie. Yeah.
I guess his music's more melodic and
Yes,
kind of
yes,
a little
it
more
is.
subtle,
It's more
nuanced.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
Well, I saw on opening night Taron Egerton crying when the movie opened.
Oh,
And he was
Yeah.
crying as he was walking into the theater, and they were trying to get pictures, and he couldn't stop crying. And I just thought, how darling. And in an interview, someone asked him, and he's like, well, my movie was opening. Like, he was
Yeah.
just so humbled that he was there and a part of this.
And
big,
I've heard interviews with him. He's become genuine friends with Elton John.
This is
oh, I
very
bet.
sweet.
And
Yeah.
like
Very sweet.
we'll sometimes spend like various holidays with Elton and Elton's husband, and then like bring his girlfriend, and they all like just hang out. Like it's so adorable.
Right.
I think it's so adorable.
Who didn't Jamie Bell play Bernie Taupin in
Yes,
the movie? He was
I
great.
thought he was really good.
I thought he was great.
Loved
I think
Yeah.
that's one of the more underrated performances of this year.
Right. You could also say that that's kind of in sync with Bernie Taupin in general being underrated and
Yeah.
overshadowed by the Elton John performance, so...
So the other two, just to kind of comment on them for the actor in a comedy, Roman Griffin Davis in Jojo Rabbit, who plays Jojo.
Oh, it's the little boy?
It's the little boy, yeah. And I do think he's good. I think I liked some of the other performances better, but we can get into that
Yeah.
at other times. And then I know the elephant in the room, Sean. Leonardo DiCaprio, your least favorite person, for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, who, honestly, still my favorite lead acting performance of this year. He is so good in it. When I saw it, I was like, God damn it, why did he win for The Revenant? I don't like that movie. I know you do, Mom. But,
How can you not like someone being eaten alive by a bear?
yeah, it just doesn't work for me.
No, I probably would enjoy that movie. No.
But-
I just...
he has some scenes in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that just blew me away, and I thought, this is what he should be winning an Oscar for.
I have this asterisk with Leo. I've always had... And I think it comes from the hype surrounding Titanic in '97, which was overwhelming, where it's just like, this is the next big guy. He's as good as Brando. He's as good as De Niro and all these. And I had so much love for those guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my issues come from. And the biggest issue I really have had with Leo over the years, and this is just my personal opinion, is that I feel like he was trying so hard to be a De Niro or a James Dean when I think his natural instincts are better suited to something like Catch Me If You Can or What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which I think are his best performances up to that point. I think from what I've seen with Tarantino, like I liked his performance in Django because he's playing a coward. And I think him playing a smarmy coward fits what I think are his strengths better than something like Gangs of New York or The Departed, where he's trying so hard to be a hardcore badass kind of character, or he's intimidating people and of course he's intimidating Jack Nicholson, who is my favorite actor, so there's a bias there and all that stuff. But I have not seen this movie, and I seem like Tarantino seems to know how to utilize him in a way that I enjoy his performances more than others.
Yeah, I would be very interested to see what you think after seeing this.
I
I really want to talk to Sean about that.
I also think I was turning off when I saw the Wolf of Wall Street, and some guy goes, "This is physical comedy," when he's going through the Caesar and the Quaaludes, and they're saying it was worthy of Buster Keaton. Like, okay, come on. I mean,
Did the house front fall upon her?
So. But anyway, yeah, I am curious to see it now because I oddly enough I just never got around to seeing it, and I didn't want to see it actually because it's a Tarantino film and it's about an era I love, the '60s.
Oh, I'm like, there's so much I know we could talk about because I know we both listened to the. You
so
must remember this.
I'll definitely. We're that's a date.
Yes, we're doing this, Sean. So then, moving on to the drama performances for the Golden Globe nominees. For actor, we have Christian Bale in Ford vs. Ferrari, Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory, Adam Driver in Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, and Jonathan Pryce, The Two Popes. So there's Jonathan Pryce. He's also nominated, but as the lead.
It seems like one pope is worth more than the other pope in the two popes. That they were divided into categories, and they're not equal.
And I've realized the only one I've seen out of these so far is Joker, which, I mean, we've discussed Joker, but Joaquin Phoenix's performance, and he does do an incredible physical performance in that movie.
Now, Joaquin is an actor I do love, and Bale. Like, those are two guys from that generation I really love, and I've loved everything they do, probably because they played this, like, Bale. One of my favorite performances of the last of the millennium has been Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, because I think that Christian Bale is just extraordinarily funny and also menacing in that film simultaneously, and he's a very versatile actor. And Joaquin, nobody plays. I was telling this to my brother before Joker opened. Nobody plays a maladjusted, like, disturbed individual, an outsider, a guy who cannot connect with anybody in society like Joaquin. Joaquin embodies that. It's almost uncanny. It's almost like you're not even watching a performance. Like, I've met people that are that ill-adjusted socially.
Sean, please don't get upset with me, but when I walked out of Joker, I turned to Jeremy and I was like, this is, I think, my favorite Joker performance. And I was like, I mean, much as I've loved other Joker performances, but I just thought it was so good.
Right. Are we saying that Jack Nicholson's Joker is not realistic? Is that what we're implying? Because I tell you, that is a nuanced performance. No, I love it. No, I adore the Jack Nicholson, but that is a different. That is a big blockbuster comic book film noir parody kind of thing. This is legitimately a man going insane. Like, you're actually watching a man descend into madness. Yeah. Sadly,
I felt like it was that combined with watching a man turn into a serial killer.
Yeah. It's deeply sad and tragic, and a lot of my friends, I am a huge Batman fan, and you would think that I'd be watching this, like, it comes out on Blu-ray next week, I'd be watching it on a loop, because I always was drawn to Batman, because, like, all the villains in Batman's universe would all be tragically drawn to villainy because of something that happened to them, or they were an outsider in society, and that's how it came to be, and I always thought that was a really fascinating trope. But I cannot watch this that often. It's so realistic and so deeply tragic. Like, Taxi Driver has that effect in a way with De Niro's performance.
Right. I mean, you and I talked about Taxi Driver on this podcast, that it's one that I did not like at first. And the more I've watched it, the more, I can't say enjoy, but the more I appreciate it and what it's doing with film and cinema. But it's not one that I'm like, you know what I feel like watching today? Taxi Driver. That sounds like a really fun one to watch. Like, you have to space it out by years. Like, I can't just, like, even, like, yearly watch that. It has to be a couple of years in between.
Yes. This is a great companion piece. Like, if you did not know he's playing the Joker, you would still look at this as a great performance regardless. Yeah. And it's almost a companion piece to his performance in The Master.
I totally agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. It's the next step.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, and that character, was they're basically the same guy. You know, they're looking to connect and can't.
One step further.
Yeah.
Down the madness hole.
Yeah.
I think he deserves a nomination, at least for an Oscar, too.
I think so. I think he's one of the few that are definite lock, because, like, the Best Actor race this year is, like, so crowded. I think he's a lock for at least a nomination. I've heard Adam Driver is the other lock for Marriage Story, which, you know, again, I haven't watched yet, but I've heard he's amazing, and I like Adam Driver, so...
Oh, yeah, I think he's a great actor, too. I'm really looking forward to seeing that performance. So.
Yeah. And then Antonio Banderas, I've heard, has given, like, the performance of a lifetime in Pain and Glory. And I know he just won the New York Film Critics Circle for Best Actor.
Wow.
So he may get more of the Critics Awards, but it'll be kind of interesting to see if he makes it into the Oscar.
Well, if he just labels his character the Riddler, he might be able to get in there, so... Whatever he's playing. Just make it a Batman villain.
And then for actress in a drama motion picture for the Golden Globes, the nominees are Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy.
I love a lot of these actresses, actually, without having seen these specific performances, so I'm kind of glad to see, like, is it Sochi? Is that... I always... Saoirse, yeah. I love her. I mean, Lady Bird. ScarJo's had a great year, actually.
She's great in Jojo Rabbit, which I'll bring up again shortly.
Yeah, she's fantastic in that. And, you know, Black Widow, that was a big monumental pop culture article or moment.
Yep.
Not to spoil anything, but that's coming up, too. We're getting in that soon. So she's having a moment. Although I've heard people say she's problematic now. Is that because of, like, how she's not been too defensive... She's been too defensive about the cultural appropriation.
She just keeps saying things, like, I've discussed this with Jessica, who's been on the show many times, where it's like, oh my gosh, I love her as an actress, like, so much, and she gives amazing performances, and I loved her as Black Widow.
Me too.
But then she'll say things in interviews that you're just like, okay, maybe stop that. The cultural appropriation stuff and talking about how she doesn't see any problem with why she can't play trans people instead of trans actors. And it just some things that it's like, maybe figure out, like, read the room before you speak. Like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Like, speaking before you think about what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, she's a great actress.
She is.
Yeah, you're just like, ScarJo. Talk to your publicist first, please.
I do love her as an actress. I can't, like, I think I like her as a person. I think she's just out of touch with what's going on with these issues.
To that extent, she's also been famous since she was, 13 or something? Like, she may just be very out of touch with actual real people in the world.
Yeah.
The only one of these that I've seen so far is Renee Zellweger and Judy, who has been sort of like the anointed frontrunner since that movie came out. And I know, like, Mom, this is where you say she had an example of what to do, but there were times when I was watching Judy where I forgot it was Renee Zellweger.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Judy Garland.
I love Judy Garland, too. And I kind of disappointed I did not get a chance to see it when it was released, because she looked great in it, and it's like towards the end of Judy's life, right? Is that
it is? It takes place in 1969 when she's doing a run of shows in London, and the historical accuracy aside, or what and various things. Actually, a YouTuber that you turned me on to, Sean, Be Kind Rewind, she did a whole video about.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
You should watch that. Yeah, I mean, it will spoil the movie, but it's also a biographical movie, but it. She did a whole thing that I would highly recommend people check out, because it talks about, like, Judy's real life and how this movie could have been bolstered by including some other things about Judy's real life instead of just focusing on this time. And so you get more of a contrast in why she had fallen so far and things like that. But to me, the performance was just so good. Like, there were times... Like I said, I forgot it was Renee Zellweger, and I've been a huge Renee Zellweger fan for years, too. So, for her to erase herself and become Judy Garland at times, I thought was very impressive.
And I'd like to add to a note that I think Judy Garland is, like, the most egregious victim of the Hollywood system back in the day.
Yes.
I mean, it angers me sometimes when you hear a lot of things that happened to her, and that's what
the
eventually
movie
led to that.
does address some of that. But
Yeah.
It probably could have done more.
And she was such a great talent. Like, I was watching Meet Me at St. Louis last year, and I love her performance in that so much.
She's so great.
She is.
That was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
I used to watch it all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was in the musical in high school.
She was.
I was a citizen of St. Louis, aka in the chorus. All right, so then Best Picture for the Golden Globes, the nominees for musical or comedy: Dolomite Is My Name, Jojo Rabbit, Knives Out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Rocket Man. And honestly, I think all of those can fit in a musical or comedy category.
Weirdly, yeah,
like,
they probably
actually
could.
fit
Yeah,
there.
For once, they actually
Tarantino
did.
kind of does fit into a comedy in his own way.
I mean, there's blood because it's Tarantino.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not spoiling anything if you've ever seen one of his films, but...
Knives Out is nominated for Best Comedy, right?
Yes.
That would be my personal favorite. I love that movie. I haven't seen the others, but that's one I would really push for.
That would be my pick.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And then, on the flip side, drama for Golden Globes, the nominees are 1917, The Irishman, Joker, Marriage Story, and The Two Popes.
Ironic that the Joker is in the dramatic category. I think, I'm kind of more fascinated less than what I think deserves because I haven't seen enough of them than what I think would win. Because there's a sense to me that, there's a narrative that's being drawn that this is Scorsese's year, in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also hearing this last-minute buzz for 1917 being the front runner.
I've heard it's very good.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to see it, but it's not in Columbus yet. So
yeah.
I love George McKay, the young actor. I remember I saw him when he was just a little kid in, I think it was called The Book Thief.
I know a couple years ago, or 3 years ago, he was in Captain Fantastic.
Yes, he was. Oh, sorry, The Thief Lord. Sorry.
The Thief Lord. Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, I called it the wrong one. That was another movie out at the same time. It was The Thief Lord, and he was just this adorable little kid. And I always thought, that kid's gonna do something. You just can tell when you see movies sometimes, and a bunch of children, and there's one, and you go, that one's gonna do something. Something's gonna happen, and that was what I saw with him.
When I saw Captain Fantastic, I thought,
oh, he's incredible.
He's so good in it, and I was like, he is gonna have a career. And now he cares. Because from what I've heard, he is essentially in every single scene of 1917. He carries the whole movie.
Wow.
So I'm intrigued to see that.
And I think Mendes is such a great, I enjoy just watching his movies for the visual panache because his movies always look great. So I'm kind of excited just to see how he shoots it,
Yeah. So, then moving on to the SAG Awards, and this is clear, just the Screen Actors Guild, it's just performances. For Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Supporting Role, the nominees for that they have are Jamie Foxx for Just Mercy, Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Al Pacino for The Irishman, Joe Pesci for The Irishman, and Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So the only one here that we haven't talked about yet is Jamie Foxx in Just Mercy, which I think is only just now starting to get released, so I don't think that's come to Columbus yet.
Terrific actor. For sure, just in general. So I'm not surprised that he would be in the running for something like that, especially for a supporting actor.
Yeah. And I recently heard an interview with him as well, talking about this movie and how much he was, excited to be a part of it. And I have heard throughout the beginnings of award season, back in the fall, certain people talk about, he knows how to work a room, so don't be surprised if he gets an Oscar nomination. He knows how to make people feel like he's totally paying attention to them and not everybody around them.
Right.
Yeah.
He shares that with De Niro. No.
Okay, well, I'll get to De Niro in a second.
Yeah.
Female actor in a supporting role. We have Laura Dern again for A Marriage Story, Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers, and Margot Robbie for Bombshell. And then where the SAGs are different here, they also have Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit and Nicole Kidman for Bombshell.
I really loved ScarJo and Jojo Rabbit, honestly. I thought that was a great performance. And I loved the character. I just liked that character. That's somebody I would like to know in real life.
I thought she was very good in that movie.
Yeah, I did too. So I'm happy to see her in the running for that.
Yeah, and she got double nominated because she's in supporting actress for Jojo Rabbit.
Right.
And then also in female lead for Marriage Story again. And then the other crossovers for the SAGs for Best Actress, you have, again, Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy, and then Lupita Nyong'o is there for Us. Which I want her to get nominated because I think she's a wonderful actress, and I've heard her performance is fantastic. I don't want her to get nominated for an Oscar because then I have to watch a scary movie.
That's right, yeah.
Very scary.
My brother loved it, actually. He said that recently. He said it's not as violent as the other one, but it's creepier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hope she does get nominated.
I feel like I can't actively...
I'll mail you a pair of scissors.
Oh, God, stop. I can't actively root against Lupita Nyong'o because I think she's an amazing actress.
She is.
But yeah, my selfish part of me is like, but I don't want to have to watch Us. I don't want to. Then for male actor in a lead role, the nominees are Christian Bale, Ford vs. Ferrari, Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver, Marriage Story, Taron Egerton, Rocketman, and Joaquin Phoenix, Joker. And this is where I wanted to bring up Robert De Niro, because neither at the SAGs or the Golden Globes did he get a Best Actor nominee. And I know you haven't seen The Irishman yet, Mom, but I think this is one of those where he gives a very subtle performance.
Yes.
And it's a very contained performance. And I think it's masterful. But I think instead, a lot of these... I mean, no, I haven't seen Ford versus Ferrari yet, but a lot of these other ones are very flashy and showy. I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio is that flashy and showy comparatively, but, you know, Taron Egerton and Rocketman, as much as I do like him, it is a very, over-the-top performance, and I feel like Robert De Niro, in this case, it may be a bit of, like, they're just taking him for granted because he is so good. Like, when I was watching it with Faith... She's like, he's not saying anything, and I can feel everything that he's actually saying.
Yeah,
like,
it's a fantastic performance, and I loved it when I first saw it. Like, oh, that's such a great... And he's an everyman. He's a gangster everyman. Like, I think it's a better everyman performance than what we got from Ray Liotta in Goodfellas.
Yes, I agree. And I love Goodfellas.
Context. Yeah, I do too. And I really, really love the performance, and I'm kind of sad to see that's being overlooked. You know, I'm glad that the other two are getting nominated, but they have... Pesci's playing against type so dramatically that you're going to notice it, and Pacino's doing
like
Pacino to 11, which I love. But De Niro, we've seen him give other subtle performances, but I think this is one of his best of that ilk. Probably his best performance in 30 years, maybe.
I think what's holding him back, maybe, is the de-aging on him. It's more incongruous. But... he's still giving a good performance through it. Like, it is... I think the other thing is they put blue contacts on Robert De Niro, and it looks bizarre.
Yeah, it's... I could see those things going against him, but I still love the performance so much.
That's the thing, is even though those things disturbed me, I was still like, damn it, he's giving a good performance.
I don't know how he's... To be honest with you, I'm shocked that he's being... overlooked so much in this race.
Yeah, I did hear that he's getting the Lifetime Achievement Award at the SAGs.
Oh, maybe.
I've heard some people are like, well, maybe because he was getting the Lifetime Achievement, he was overlooked. But I mean, I guess we'll find out. And, you know,
maybe
11 days or whatever. Like,
they're confusing his performance in The Irishman with his performance in Joker. And maybe they're thinking that's what's being touted about.
Oh, speaking of confusion, something else that happened with the SAG Awards. Yeah. Because Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell was nominated at the Golden Globes, not at the SAGs. Apparently, it was a clerical error, and they had accidentally put her in a lead when the nomination ballots went out, and had put her in lead, and nobody was voting for her because she's not a lead. And so it was like this whole thing. So it'll be very interesting to kind of see what happens with Best Supporting Actress. Like, was Kathy Bates getting a nomination at the Globes a fluke, or did this clerical error mess things up and she will get an Oscar nomination? Like, it's kind of interesting to see what will happen with that. So then for the best performance by a cast in a motion picture for the SAG Awards, which is basically their best picture, but I always think it's interesting to see what ends up here, because a few years ago, the first year I did award stuff, Mom and I saw Hidden Figures, and I was like, they're going to get a SAG nomination.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, oh no, they're going to get a SAG nomination. And not only did they get a nomination, they won. I was like, that's just such a... Because it's so many performances.
Yeah.
So the nominees for that are Bombshell, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. I mean, I've seen all of these except Bombshell, and I can't argue with any of those, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like the big ones that are getting recognition that we've talked about, Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, but it is Al Pacino's in that movie too.
Yes, that's right.
There are so many people in that movie. Margot Robbie is also in that movie, and I thought she was great as Sharon Tate. Like, there so many people. Dakota Fanning does a terrifying performance that Jessica was just like, oh my god. Like, as soon as she was like, I need you to talk to me about that. So yeah, all of these I think have really deep casts. Like Jojo Rabbit, like I said, my favorite. I liked the main kid, but I think even the little supporting performances in that are great.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Alfie Allen is a hidden gem in that movie.
Knives Out should have been nominated for ensemble.
I agree with that. I am surprised Knives Out is
shocked
not
because
yet.
that is such an ensemble movie. It is the pure definition of ensemble work.
Yeah. Oh my god, and like everybody in that, Toni Collette and Don Johnson, I was not expecting in that movie.
Oh, he was fantastic in that.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that Knives Out is not here.
Why is it not there?
I think because Bombshell is.
Yeah.
Really?
I wonder if because it's a murder mystery that people take it for granted how well crafted it actually is.
I think you're right. I think they do. Because I think they're like, oh, it's fun. Well, it is, but Rian Johnson crafted that film so well.
Yeah. It's, I'm actually shocked that of all the categories for that film, that it did not receive a nomination for Best Ensemble Work.
Yeah.
Because that's the pure definition of ensemble work for me. It's truly an ensemble. There is a lead, but it's really... every performance matters in relation to the other performance in that film, so...
Because, we've talked about how great the performances are in The Irishman.
Yes.
But I would almost argue that Knives Out deserves more of an ensemble than The Irishman does.
I agree. There's like 3 performances in The Irishman, and Ray Romano, who's very funny.
Ray Romano is very good in it.
Very funny.
So Knives Out is like a beautifully braided tapestry.
Yes.
Which is how... why they should have been nominated.
Yes.
Truly.
That's exactly how I feel about that, yes. It's like... Because when I think of an ensemble, that's an ensemble cast. Because it's very much like an ensemble work. There's really no lead in that relation. But they're all critical to the plot, and every relationship matters in that film. And they all play... Though the acting is superb across the board. Like, everybody's bringing their
And the way
A-game.
they interact together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was anything nominated from that?
In the SAG Awards?
Yeah.
No, nobody.
Nothing?
God, that's
Not even any of the technical anything?
No. Well, SAG Awards is just
acting.
Just acting.
Oh.
The technical stuff.
That's why I'm on this podcast.
I think it's the Tom Hanks effect with Knives Out. It's just so well crafted and so beautifully rendered.
Yeah.
But because it's under the genre of a murder mystery, which is what makes it great, by the way, is that it is that.
It's, to me, the perfect mix of Agatha Christie and Clue.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. They even reference it in the movie, too. Like, it feels like it should be on a board game or something like that. It was kind of funny.
I was happy to... I know neither of you have seen it, but Parasite is another one that you could argue for, like, a lead actor, maybe, but it does not work without the whole ensemble and the way they interact with each other.
That's what I've heard. That seems to be getting the most buzz of any film this year, too, by the way.
It's amazing. It's really good. Okay, let's move on to the Critics' Choice Awards.
Boom, boom, boom.
And they do a bunch of technical stuff. I'm not going to go into any of that, really. Now, okay, so the Critics' Choice Awards do a Best Acting Ensemble, and Knives Out was nominated for them, for Critics' Choice.
Good.
I think it would be really funny if they win at the Critics' Choice Awards, but not and aren't even nominated for the SAG.
Right, that would be it. And that's an actors guild too. On top of that, you think they would know better than anybody, like the importance of ensemble work. God.
Okay, so getting into the Critics' Choice Awards, going back to screenplay a little bit now that we focused on acting, they, again, at the Critics' Choice, split it up between original screenplay and adapted. So, for adapted screenplay, Greta Gerwig is here for Little Women. Michael Fitzerman Blue and Noah Harpster for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Anthony McCartan for The Two Popes. Todd Phillips and Scott Silver for Joker. Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit. And Steven Zaillian for The Irishman. I'm really happy to see Greta Gerwig here.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's actually a really great script, too.
I'm so excited to see that movie.
Yeah, I am too. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I'm honestly happy to see Taika Waititi here for Jojo Rabbit also because I thought it was a very clever script.
Oh yeah, that was a great movie actually. It's a very funny movie.
Yes, very funny. Yes, that one is properly a comedy for the Golden Globes.
I agree, yeah.
Then they have for Best Original Screenplay Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story, Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won for Parasite, Ryan Johnson for Knives Out, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Lulu Wang for The Farewell. So again, I'm happy to see Lulu Wang here and Ryan Johnson.
Yes, me too.
For original screenplay.
Oh, I'm very happy to see that.
I really hope both of them go through for the Oscars for original screenplay.
I know it's going to long shot for Knives Out to get a Best Picture nomination, even though I think it's deserving of it.
I think it's deserving.
But
the production design in that movie is also fantastic.
Oh, it's a great film. But I think, at the very least, it should be getting screenplay nominations, because it is a superb screenplay in terms of character and story and dialogue.
Because, again, for the movie to even work, that screenplay has to be so on point to twist and turn the way it does and have a whodunit.
I know, Tarantino's such a legendary figure that I think this is the same thing with the Scorsese effect, where this might be his year. I don't think he's ever won an Oscar, has he, for Best Director? I know he's won for Screenplay for Pulp Fiction. I think he won.
No, Tarantino has not won for Director.
Yeah.
Only for Screenplay at the Oscars.
So I'm wondering if maybe he's so noted as a screenwriter that maybe that'll cancel him out a little bit too. I don't know.
Could be. He definitely has a bit of a narrative for Best Director this year of it's time.
Yeah.
That he gets rewarded for that.
There's a couple narratives like that this year. It's going to be a very interesting race in that way.
Well, speaking of director, I can jump over to that for Critics' Choice Awards. Quentin Tarantino is nominated there, along with Martin Scorsese,
yes.
Josh and Benny Safdie for Uncut Gems, Sam Mendes for 1917, Greta Gerwig for Little Women, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, and Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story.
It kind of goes like what we talked about earlier, that Little Women and Greta Gerwig are going to be in the race for the Oscars.
I really hope.
You could see that building up to that point.
And speaking of
this one, does Laurie marry Joe? Or Joe marry Laurie?
No.
Well, then I don't want to see it.
That's not how the story goes.
I don't care. If she's going to rewrite it, she needs to rewrite it so they marry.
Well, that does... Okay. I don't even know where to begin with you.
That's the criteria.
I always wanted that. He would let her be, wouldn't he? Let her be? Oh, well. Okay.
We'll have to watch Little Women and talk about it, Mo.
Okay. But we have to watch all of the Little Women.
That's fine with me. You know I'm down. Well, speaking of Little Women, supporting actress Florence Pugh is playing Amy, and she got a Best Supporting Actress nomination at the Critics' Choice, which I've heard a lot of people were really sad she didn't end up at the Golden Globes or the SAGs.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, her version of Amy is really, Amy doesn't just come across as, the little brat sister or whatever. She has a depth, the way that Florence Pugh and the way that Greta Gerwig wrote.
I wonder what's hurting it so far is maybe it's been done so many times that maybe people are like, oh, we don't need another version of Little Women. Even if it's good, do we have to keep rewarding it?
I know it.
Yeah, I think that might be what's hurting it. Because it seems like it's great in every other way. Because otherwise it seems perplexing in why it's not a front runner.
The other supporting actress nominees for Critics' Choice are Laura Dern, Scarlett Johansson, Jennifer Lopez, Margot Robbie, And then also Zhao Shuzhen for The Farewell, who plays the grandmother. She plays Nene. And I thought that was cool to see her get that nomination.
Yeah, it sounds like it's Laura Dern's year from what I've heard about Marriage Story.
Yeah.
And just the buzz.
Which
so.
I can't be mad at because Laura Dern is a fantastic
she
actress.
Is. She really is.
Yeah, I will be interested to see that. But I was happy to see, again, like Scarlett Johansson in the mix for this.
Yes, I really like that character a lot.
Then for the supporting actors for the Critics' Choice, there's Willem Dafoe for The Lighthouse, Tom Hanks, Anthony Hopkins, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, and Brad Pitt. So Willem Dafoe is the
outlier.
The outlier in this one. I did see The Lighthouse. His acting is amazing. I don't know how I feel about The Lighthouse.
That's what I hear.
Let's just say I liked Star Wars Rise of Skywalker better than I did The Lighthouse.
Gotcha.
But the performances are really good in it.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe, I would never want him to put a curse on me as his character in The Lighthouse.
Ooh.
He gets real scary.
I saw shades of Robert Shaw in William Dafoe in the trailer. I haven't seen the movie, but it seems like that's
from
some
Jaws. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to Jeremy about it because Jessica and I went and saw The Lighthouse, and both of us went, huh. Like, when it ended,
Yeah.
we're like, great acting, but huh. And I told Jeremy, I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch this movie again. Like, if you wanted to, I'd watch it with you. But otherwise, I would just be like, here are like 3 scenes I want you to see. One of them involves sea shanties.
Yes. Wow.
Then, Critics' Choice Best Actor nominees are Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory. They did do Robert De Niro for The Irishman.
Oh, good.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Adam Driver, Eddie Murphy, Joaquin Phoenix, and Adam Sandler for Uncut Gems.
Mm-hmm.
So the Critics' Choice definitely highlighted more Uncut Gems, which Eric Sternberger messaged me the other day and was like, this movie is fantastic.
Oh, wow.
So that's another one that's like moved up my list to see up there with Little Women.
Yeah. You know, I've never been a Sandler fan either, although I seem to like it when he goes away from comedy more than when he's actually just doing straight comedy, weirdly enough. So.
Spanglish is one of my favorite movies.
Mm-hmm. Anytime.
But it's James Brooks. I mean, there's just so much to it that is just... It has to win. It's just a winning story. And he does it so well. He's such a... I don't know, you just feel empathetic toward his tale.
Well, and everything that I've heard is this is not comedy.
Yeah.
Like, and that this is like another like performance of a lifetime, him in Uncut Gems.
Yes, I heard too.
I listened to the A24 podcast that was the Safdie brothers who directed Uncut Gems and Paul Thomas Anderson, and the A24 podcast does like conversations between creative people, and so they were talking to each other about like working with Sandler on Punch Drunk Love versus working with him on Uncut Gems. It was a very interesting conversation to hear between those directors. And then Best Actress for Critics' Choice, Awkwafina, Cynthia Erivo, Scarlett Johansson, Lupita Nyong'o, Saoirse Ronan, Charlize Theron, and Renee Zellweger.
Oh, wow.
So they do more than the 5 at the Critics' Choice, as you've noticed.
Yes.
They have 7.
It doesn't seem like there's a clear-cut front-runner for Best Actress. It seems like this is going to be an interesting race going into the Oscars, because I don't think there's any major, with the exception maybe of Laura Dern, which I hear a lot of consensus for.
Yeah.
It seems like the rest have a number of,
Well, you heard,
potential
like, Renee
winners.
Zellweger is Judy for the long time, but then now I just keep hearing, like, it's so open. Like, nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who wins at the Globes and does, like, the please nominate me speech.
Yes.
And then what the Oscar noms are the week after that.
Yeah.
And then for Critics' Choice, their best picture, and they do 10. They have 1917, Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, and Uncut Gems.
I'm kind of surprised to see Ford versus Ferrari nominated so much, because haven't heard many people raving about that movie as compared to some of the other films last year. I haven't seen it, so I can't vouch that it's not worthy of that, but...
I haven't seen it either. I know...
Is it better than Cars?
I think it's better than Cars. I know the Duesleys, like Colleen and Steven saw it at the Toronto Film Festival when they got to go, and from both of them I heard, like, it's fine. Like, you know, it wasn't like anything that blew them away.
Right. It's like Scorsese and the Joker. You know, it's fine.
It's fine. The final thing that we wanted to hit on were the Oscars shortlists, and they put out a bunch of them, but we were just going to look at a couple of them. Like, do any of us know the documentary shorts or any of the shorts that are going to be involved? Like, no, we'll find out more when the actual nominations come out.
Yeah.
So the ones that I wanted to kind of hit on, the shortlist for international feature film, which was the one like big change that they made this year, is it's not called foreign language film anymore.
Oh.
It's called international feature film.
Wow. That's an adjustment for me. I'm not used to that.
Yeah, it was like one of the changes that they made like late spring, early summer. But compared to last year where it was like popular Oscar, it didn't feel like we needed to do a special just to discuss like that one change.
Right, exactly.
So the ones that they have on their shortlist are
not American films.
Yes. Well, but then there's also stuff about it that if they're speaking English too much, it still can't be. It's been very hazy.
What was the African film that it's too much English, but it's on here if that's it. They had too much English in the script or in the dialogue, but English is one of their accepted languages. But that's not fair. We speak English as much as we speak whatever their other language was. And I heard the director talking, and she's like, "How can you?"
Right, because the idea was like they were trying to make it more international, so it wasn't saying specifically a foreign language.
Because
but then
the word "foreign" now is considered frightening for people. That's what they want to rid of the word foreign.
Yeah.
But foreign language now is not part of the name of the awards. So if someone's speaking English, does that mean an English film made in Germany is now a foreign? You know, it's like because you've changed the name of the category. Right. What does that mean in a broader sense? It was almost a knee-jerk reaction to change the name because of the word foreign and people being so close-minded these days. All right, that's fine. But what have you done on a greater scale with that?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's been a big debate. Like, I heard an interview with Lulu Wang, who, you know, we talked about, wrote and directed The Farewell, and she's had issues with some places going, oh, well, The Farewell is going to be a foreign language film. And she's like, but it's an American film that just happens to be half in Chinese.
Right.
Like, it's not
a foreign film.
It's not a foreign film. And, like, it was a really interesting conversation to hear, because she's like, it's just frustrating because I made this film, and it's very much based on my personal experience as an Asian American, and then
now
it's still being pushed away and being othered because it doesn't fit into a tidy box of all spoken English, and
very understandable concern.
So the ones that are on the short list for international feature film are The Painted Bird from the Czech Republic, Truth and Justice from Estonia, Les Miserables from France, Those Who Remained from Hungary, Honeyland from North Macedonia, Corpus Christi from Poland, Beanpole from Russia, Atlantics from Senegal, Parasite from South Korea, and Pain and Glory from Spain.
Certainly Parasite sticks out.
Yeah, I think Parasite and Pain and Glory will definitely end up nominated, but I don't know a lot about what other ones would.
Yes.
A lot of the other foreign films that I've heard about this year were all from France, and each country only gets one entry, so they got Les Miserables.
So I'm judging this list by the countries my brother has spent time in.
Okay. My uncle travels the world for work.
Who cares about narrative? What I want to know is...
Yeah, he spent more time in France than Estonia. Okay, so that knocks Estonia.
Ooh, I did get Estonian candy from him last year for Christmas.
There, they should win.
It was delicious. The short list for makeup and hairstyling is Bombshell, Dolomite Is My Name, Downton Abbey, Joker, Judy, Little Women, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Rocket Man. I kind of want Downton Abbey to get on there because if it does, Steven is going to watch the entire television series and then the movie.
Holy shit. Wow, there's a lot at stake with that nomination.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to wish more viewing on you, Steven, but I love Downton Abbey, and I just think it would be funny for you to become, like, a secret Downton Abbey fan.
Well, I'm going to add this in. If Joker gets nominated, he has to watch the Batman animated series and the Batman original TV show on top of that, and top of Downton Abbey. Let's see what happens there.
Sean just threw down a challenge. So one of the things that they did last year when they gave out shortlists where they did the music, which they hadn't released in years. So the original score shortlist this year, we have Avengers Endgame, Bombshell, The Farewell, Ford vs. Ferrari, Frozen 2, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, The King, Little Women, Marriage Story, Motherless Brooklyn, 1917, Pain and Glory, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, and Us. I don't think Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker deserves to be on this short list.
It's not that distinct of a score compared to some of the others. I mean, he's done amazing, brilliant work over the years. I don't know. In general, with the sequel trilogy, outside of maybe The Last Jedi might have been the best score he wrote overall. I don't really feel that it was that distinctive like you did.
No, I feel like he recycled not just Star Wars, but other scores that John Williams has written.
And he's 88.
I was going to say, how old is he?
Yeah.
He's doing the best he can, guys.
Yeah, well, he was like, you know what? I'm going to write this. And then I was like, that's E.T. That's Harry Potter. There's E.T. again.
Aww. Maybe he doesn't remember the...
He probably doesn't. I came up with this new melody. No, actually, that's E.T. directly.
I currently don't have any other strong feelings about score, except I don't think that should get nominated.
Yeah.
I won't go through every original song that's shortlisted, but the thing that I found the most...
That's a long list. That's not a short list.
No, that's not a short list. It's a long one. What I found the most surprising is that Frozen 2 only had one nomination.
Wow.
Because they had a ton of songs in that movie.
Really?
Or, I mean, not nomination. They only have one song on the short list. Which was the same thing that surprised me last year with A Star Is Born, is I think they only had one on the short list.
Yeah.
And both of those, whether I liked Frozen 2 or not, it seems like I thought there was more than one song that deserved to be there and not the one that they have here.
Gotcha. Maybe a Frozen backlash, maybe? I don't know.
Could be. That's
people are sick of Let It Go, and it's like, we don't want any more Let It Go in our lives.
Yeah. Everyone's like, we need to back up. But I just feel like there's way too many songs that are like, here's an extra song that we stuck into a Disney movie that we remade.
There are several on this long list.
Yep. Then the last short list, I just wanted to
Toy Story?
Comment on, because I feel like these might be things that we've seen. Visual effects. The short list, which is actually a short list. Alita Battle Angel, Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, Cats.
That's not the short list.
I know, right? Gemini Man, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and Terminator Dark Fate.
Well, whatever issues we might have had with Rise of Skywalker, which I think we all kind of liked it in some way, it had great visual effects.
I think the visual effects, that's fine. I just can't believe Cats is on this short list.
Yeah, Cats... I don't need to see the movie. I've seen the trailer. I can tell you how it got on the short list for best visual effects is beyond me.
Well, it did change from first trailer to second trailer.
It did, yeah.
The first trailer was incredibly disturbing.
Yeah.
Second trailer, less so.
Still disturbing.
Still disturbing, but less so than the first trailer because people were so sick.
My friend Gerald from the Two Peas podcast was messaging with me earlier, and he took his son, who's I think 6, to see Cats today, and he was like, don't bother seeing it.
Wow. Not even as a guilty pleasure, you can't.
I mean, sure, but he's like, you have better movies to watch. It's fine if you don't want to go see it. And he's like, the only reason I did is my son wanted to see it. And I'm like, oh, when little children ask you to see a movie, I've seen so many bad movies that way. Like,
oh, yeah.
So I saw Angry Birds and Monster Trucks in the theater.
You see the trailers for that thing. I'm in awe it exists. And my brother and I were having a conversation about it. Like, we just didn't think in this day and age you could have a movie this miscalculated without self-awareness, because even most movies are still self-aware. People are aware of what people respond
some
to more
camp
than
in it or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks like, wow.
Yeah.
They did not.
No cheese, no camp.
Yeah.
Dead on. Here we are. We're earnest and eager.
Like, who wanted that? Who wanted earnest cats?
Well,
you know?
when I heard they were making it, I was like, wait, that should have been done 20 years ago if
Yes.
you were going to.
Yes.
It's 20 years too late. No one cares anymore.
Right.
It's been played to death on every off-Broadway stage and community. Like, no one wants it anymore. So
Right.
I was like, why?
And it would have been better if it was like the 70s Wiz, where they just had them dressed up in
Yeah.
costume like
Yeah.
they did on stage.
Yes.
Right.
That
Well,
would have been a much better...
Well, I can't remember who it was, but I saw somebody on Twitter that was like, hey, I don't think you understood. Part of why we liked Cats was the leg warmers. Like, that was the thing, is like, it was
Yeah.
kitschy costumes. And
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
To superimpose a human face on a small cat-like skull
Yeah.
is really, really upsetting.
My brother, so my brother and I were having this conversation, and my brother, I have to quote because he has a way of making these unique observations that get to the heart of things.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, people seem to really hate Cats, or the strong inversion, and they all hate it. And critics are in awe of how bad it is. Like, they're just like, I can't believe I just watched this.
Yeah.
He says, and particularly they really single out like Rebel Wilson and James Corden. And Scott goes, there's something very uncomfortable because James Corden seems very comfortable doing that. And so that makes the rest of us extremely uncomfortable that how comfortable he is playing that cat. So I was
So
like,
what you're
yes.
telling me is if I ever cover Cats, Scott Wheeler needs to be on that
Oh,
podcast.
yeah, you would definitely need him just to make observations. I'm just curious. I really want to see it just as a guilty pleasure, just as a morbid curiosity. I gotta just
Yeah.
check
I'd
it
say
out.
wait until
Yes,
streaming.
I think that's the better option.
One of my other friends, Wesley, was like, Amanda, do not spend money on it. And I was like, that's fine. I'll wait until it's like
Yeah.
streaming somewhere and then we'll watch
but
it
at that
and
point, that's
have
what,
a drinking
3 weeks from
game or
now?
something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Also, why did they think, you know what, let's put this up against the Star Wars movie?
Well, I
like,
think
it's
they-
just across the
They
board bad
really
ideas.
thought
Yes.
people wanted to see this. I mean, seriously, obviously they did.
Yeah.
But it's 20 years too late.
It
20
is.
years ago, people would have wanted to see it.
Oh,
but not
it
now.
took too long. And Tom Hooper's a great filmmaker.
I know,
He's made
yeah.
movies I've loved, like The King's Speech.
Yeah, I
And-
really like the King's Speech. I just, I don't understand.
And he went insane. I love it. He made this deranged movie that...
Well, maybe this will be that movie in the, midnight showing, people dressing
Yeah.
up like cats, performing on a stage in front of a movie theater.
I love it. Like when the reviews started coming in, we saw the trailer because we were all freaked out by the trailer. But when the reviews came in, like people were so wrapped up in the Star Wars debate, then slowly this crept in. Like,
Yeah.
there's this really bad movie that we never thought would happen again. Like,
And here it
this is
is.
like Batman and Robin bad.
Going back to some of the shortlisted visual effects, the one that I want to see get there the most, get a nomination, is Captain Marvel, because I thought the de-aging in that movie
Yes,
was done really, really well.
especially Sam Jackson. Like he looked like you would not have known.
No,
Yeah, he was great in that.
I thought
too.
that was fantastic. So,
Yeah.
well, that's all we have. Kicking off awards season.
Yes.
Here we go.
Let's
Every
all-
week you'll be hearing from us about these things.
Let's hope James Corden gets a nomination, so we'll have to see Cats.
Oh, no, that's the one thing, is I might have to see Cats if it gets like a song nomination or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Visual, you don't think it'll get some sort of a visual effects award?
Right. The Ed Wood Award, the special Ed Wood Achievement Award, goes to Cats this year.
I think its nomination was it got shortlisted, and everything else I think is far.
It'll be
far above.
referenced in the monologue.
It will be referenced in the monologue if they
Several
have
times.
If they have a host, they made
Yeah, they-
hostless again this year.
Exactly. It's a good thing Ricky Gervais isn't hosting the Oscars.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Man.
well, that'll be an interesting discussion next week
I
after.
want
Yeah.
him to
Yes.
have a host. Okay.
Well, anything you guys would like to plug?
Just listen when you can to Cinema Wheelerte. It's my movie podcast that I co-host along with my brother Scott and my co-host Tony. We definitely have some episodes coming up down the pipeline. In fact, Amanda and I did a joint podcast on Rise of Skywalker recently that's going to be up soon.
Yeah.
And my brother and I are also performing off and on in town as the Wheeler Brothers as an improv troupe. And we're also going to be in Improv Wars later on this month as well.
Awesome.
So if you're in the Columbus area, come and check us out.
Yeah, I'll make sure I put links to those in the show notes so people can find them.
Thank you.
Anything you want to plug, Mom?
Give to charity.
Well done.
Thank you.
That was selfless. I respect that.
Well, thank you, listeners, for hanging out with us on this awards season discussion. Thanks for welcoming the podcast back after an interesting 2019. So Here we go. If you want to follow along with Amanda's Picture Show A Go-Go on social media, we are on Twitter at Amanda's Pic Show, on Facebook, on Instagram. We're the full Amanda's Picture Show A Go-Go. We have an email, amandaspictureshowagogo@gmail.com. And you heard us reference some older award season episodes that we did like last year or a couple years ago. You can find all of those on our website. It's amandaagogo.com. And under this podcast, there's a by series page, and I have the award seasons broken out by years, so you can go through the entire award season with us.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, since 2016, we've been, late 2016, early 2017, we've been doing this, so.
And I have some ideas for your award season too.
Yes, there may be some, if people enjoy the awards stuff, there may be some more interesting specials coming down the pipeline later in 2020, so keep an eye out.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I want to be friends with Mindy Kaling.
I will be.
Please be my friend.
Mindy, I know you're listening. I'm an old lady, but I think you'd like me. Peter Lawford, though, is Lori. 92nd Oscars?
Yeah, 92nd.
God.
Wow.
I can't wait for the 100th. I'm gonna cry.
Why? Because the Oscars are what? Your Super Bowl.
I'm like, they are. It's true. I believe I called them to friends earlier the highest of holy holidays for me.
That's the new. The Oscars are by Easter. You know? Yeah.
You've never seen Top Gun, Mom?
No. But it came out about 6 weeks after you were born,
Okay,
and I
fair.
was really, really busy.
Right, fine.
Yeah.
You were like taking care of me and putting diapers.
She was
and
going to see
clothes.
Cats on Broadway at the time.
Like 7 times. I loved it.